Welcome back to the Concacast with Jon Arnold. I'm Jon Arnold. It's a regional soccer show that takes a look at the entire Concacaf region. There's plenty going on. We have the Concacaf Champions Cup in full swing. MLS teams playing their second leg ahead of what looks like it's going to be a thrilling round of 16. MLS did return this weekend, and leagues in Mexico, Central America, and even the Caribbean are in full swing. Today we're going to take a broad regional look, and we're going to do it with three segments. First is the big story. The second is the interview, where we'll go to Nuuk, Greenland, a place that is not in the Concacaf region, but hopes to be. And finally, we'll close out by talking about the olds. But first, as I mentioned, it's the big story. And unfortunately today, the big story is match manipulation. Earlier this month, the Mexican Federation suspended 7 players for various lengths of time for their involvement in a match manipulation scandal. And this week, the Mexican press is full of proof that something happened illicitly at Real Apodaca, a club in the Mexican 3rd Division. There's also evidence of match manipulation in the 2nd Division. This doesn't make Mexico unique by any standard. Unfortunately, in this region, we've had scandals in the not-too-distant past in Panama, in El Salvador, in Nicaragua, even in places like Canada and the US. Now, what does set this scandal apart is that unlike most of those incidents, which have been spot fixing, one player trying to draw a yellow card at a certain time, to concede a penalty, to get sent off, to do something that he can control, this looks like, judging from the videos that have come out in the Mexican press this week, a significant number of players involved in actually manipulating the results or the score line, sometimes in the first half, sometimes in the full match. CONCACAF actually does have decent protocols for match manipulation. It seems like the allegations of manipulation at past Gold Cups served as a bit of a wake-up call. They have a portal online, an email address, and a hotline. It's all run by an independent group, and players are able to either reach out to that or to hotlines often set up by their domestic leagues. In fact, the Mexican Federation has an email address that's getting other tips right now. In some ways, that's not great news. You don't want to hear about more reports of match manipulation. But at the same time, if it's happening, players who know about it need to feel safe reporting it. And safety is a big factor here, because one of the players who received the ban, a player who played for 2nd Division club Caminos, put out a video saying he doesn't want to talk to media, he doesn't want to talk about anything after getting a 16-year ban because he's in fear of his safety and his family's safety after working with these crime groups. There's no easy solution to getting match manipulation out of the game. Speaking with experts in the past, what they've told me is that the best recourse against manipulation is paying players fair salaries. Now, that's something that can be easy to do for leagues in the 1st Division with commercial success, with media rights that are desired domestically and internationally, with sponsorship. But once you start to get into these 2nd and 3rd divisions, we're really sort of relying on outside organizations and sports books themselves to sort of serve as the police. Should you put prop bets on a 3rd Division match? Well, they've chosen to make the calculation that it's okay, and these players are being influenced by criminals, by people that want to make money by manipulating these matches. I think in the US, it's easy to say that the proliferation of sports betting being legal in more states than ever, and gambling ads seeming to come into every single facet of the sport, it makes it easy to say that this is new, that there's a wave of match manipulation that's happening because of these books. But I'm not so convinced that's true. As you start to look at the places where this is happening, even Mexico, where Grupo Caliente, a huge gaming group, owns teams in the 1st Division, it hasn't necessarily been a direct correlation between legalized sports gambling and match manipulation. In fact, sometimes I wonder if betting being in the shadows allows even more of these things to go unchecked. But what we can all agree on is everyone wants a level playing field. Every fan of the sport wants to see a game that's one team trying its hardest to win against another team doing the exact same. How can we ensure that that happens? I think demanding our leaders take this seriously, that they keep working with outside groups and do more. Work with groups that detect sketchy betting or an odd number of bets, and that the punishment is sufficiently harsh when players are found to have fallen afoul of the law. The other thing we should demand is that players have good working conditions. If the best defense against match manipulation is players making enough money to feed their families, to live a good life, yeah, we see that in first divisions, but maybe it's time to start demanding that in second divisions, in third divisions as well, or say, hey, if you cannot guarantee this, maybe you shouldn't have a club. Because too often we see that players are going to be tempted to take this route and end up making a mistake that cheapens the game, that ruins their reputation, and that definitely is a smirch on the reputation of the competition itself, even if they didn't actually have anything to do with making that first decision. Now let's move into the interview. Greenland made headlines last year announcing it hoped to be the newest member of Concacaf. It kept fans' attentions by releasing beautiful jerseys designed by Hummel and telling of intentions to play Concacaf nations in the upcoming few months. But as you'll hear from FA President Kenneth Kleist, things might not be so straightforward as far as Greenland actually being accepted into the Confederation. I asked Kenneth exactly where the bid stands.
As it stands right now, we were about to have a meeting with them actually in this month. Unfortunately, that not going to happen. So we are holding a meeting in I think in start April instead of in London. So that's the big news.
How do you take it? Was it something that is a blow? Is it something that is just part of the process? Where do you feel like Greenland's goal to get into CONCACAF stands?
Yeah, we were of course ready to have a big meeting in Miami. So it was quite a blow at first, but right now we are ready to the next step, and that's of course in London, and we optimistic and ready. Yeah.
Maybe you know more once you're able to sit down, have coffee, whatever the meeting looks like. But have you had a clear alignment from CONCACAF? Some confederations, it seems like, have very clear requirements. I'm thinking of the OFC, where a lot of these smaller island nations have needed to hit certain steps. Tell our viewers, does CONCACAF has that process? Is it a little bit more opaque? How do you join CONCACAF? Is there a checklist, or is it a little more difficult than that?
Yeah, of course, there's a checklist, and I think it's about 61 or 62 the different checklists we have to accommodate to be a part of CONCACAF, and of course, it's not going to take one day for us to do the checklist. So yeah. We know that, and we're ready for that.
I want to ask a bit about the response, because it seems like anytime I put something out that one of my colleagues writes about Greenland, that there's this big swell of people who are interested, mostly support, obviously some haters and doubters, etc. But what's the response that you've had? First, the announcement, then the jersey launch with your partners at Hummel, and the announcement that, hey, we're going to be able to meet with CONCACAF. It seems like each time there's been a swell. What have you felt as the people actually trying to put this effort forward?
The response from the people in Greenland and in the world in general is amazing and positive. I haven't seen anything negative about it. So it's been quite a journey, but we have to do the next step, of course. That's the meeting in London, hopefully in London. And yeah, let's see where we go from that. But we are quite optimistic about it. So we're looking forward to it.
I know that a component of the Miami meeting was hopefully to chat with some CONCACAF member associations, just people associated with football in the region who have reached out. There have been games on the schedule, some women's games potentially. It seems like there's a bit of brotherhood from CONCACAF nations, whether or not this membership process actually is able to go forward like you hope. Tell me a bit about that and sort of what you've seen from some of maybe potential allies in the region.
Yeah, we have been talking a little bit about the possibility for us to be a member, and yeah, there have been a lot of positivity from some of CONCACAF members in Caribbean, and I think in 1-2 years I think we are going to invite some countries to play with us here in Nuuk, Greenland. So yeah, we're optimistic.
We talked before, but tell people who might not have been able to read what was coming out after that conversation about what football looks like in Greenland. You guys have really tried to make programs to be to the standard necessary to join an organization like Concacaf. Feel free to brag a little bit on yourself if you want. What kind of things are you doing to make this viable? Because obviously, when people think of Greenland, even over your shoulder, we can see ice, on that map, and we don't think of a country with lush green football fields, and that's really not the case either. But you are able to play the game often. You do have this love for the game. Tell people what it's like for someone who is a football lover in Greenland week to week.
The people in Greenland is football crazy. That's for sure. I think that's 10% of the people in Greenland playing football. That's a lot, and we playing football we call it futsal. A lot of the playing futsal because of the weather, because of the Greenland situation. I think right now it stands. We're playing 3 months in the season outside football. Besides that, we are looking to build in the infrastructure. We're looking to build a lot of air domes, so we can play much more. So that's the big step for us to be a part of Concacaf. We have to prolong the season, which only it's 2 months per year. So we have to do it in 8 months or something like that.
Well, and people should know as well that you've said in your bid materials that you're willing to be flexible, to be reasonable. You understand that if it is a January World Cup qualifier or something like that, that you probably wouldn't be able to host in a traditional setting, at least, and that you're flexible and that you kind of have to think outside the box. To me, that's sort of what marks what I've read about and chatted with you about in Greenland, is this kind of innovation and understanding of your current reality, but also a willingness to sort of think outside the box. And tell me a bit about those things that you do to change and make sure, hey, like we got to do something different. We understand.
Yeah, exactly. We have been talking about playing outside the country to play. In January or February or something like that. We can play in Miami. We can play, Iceland, for instance. So there's a lot of possibilities for us to play, and we don't see it as a negative kind of way, because we have to, like you said, we have to look at the bright side and see what we can do.
I wanted to ask in your announcement that you're going to meet with CONCACAF, one of the first things that you guys wrote as a federation was that this has really nothing to do with the political situation, as Donald Trump has suddenly turned his attention to Greenland. We actually already had a guest on the CONCACast from Panama as well, talked about the political situation and what it feels like to suddenly have your land sovereignty be shaken. I wanted to ask you, both as the president of the Greenland FA, but also as one of the few people I think will hear humans from Greenland. What's your perspective when you hear a politician say, I want that, this is going to be ours? And does it sort of bleed into the football? Clearly was important enough for you guys to put in the press release, hey, this has nothing to do with that. I'm sure you're spending a lot of your time explaining, but you tell me, what's it like to have that sovereignty suddenly threatened by a politician?
Yeah, it's been crazy. There's a lot of talk in Greenland and the world about Trump and Greenland and Denmark and so on. So it's been a little bit noisy. We can say that, but we try to make it as unpolitical as much as we can. Of course, there's a lot of heat in Greenland and in good way and bad way. So but we try to do it as unpolitical as much as we can. So,
well, I want to close with something that I think you've probably thought about a lot, and that I think most people in Greenland would definitely support and agree with. What would it mean for you, Kenneth, if Greenland is admitted to CONCACAF? What would it mean if you guys get this sort of blessing from a global soccer organization, join this confederation, and can sort of represent yourselves as Greenland on the football field?
Everything. I think most of the Greenlanders are trying to show that they are also a part of football world. It's been quite difficult for us to be shown as a football nation because of the situation. So we don't have the possibility to play against anyone. So that's a big step for us, a huge step. And I think, from my perspective, it's going to be the biggest step in our football history. So no doubt about that.
Well, Kenneth, we'll look forward to telling this story going forward, chatting with you again. Thanks for joining us today on the Concacast from Nuuk, Greenland.
You're welcome.
Finally, today I wanted to talk about getting old. Now, if you're watching the video version, while you'll notice I'm still arrestingly handsome, there are some grays starting to pop up in this beard. But while I'm no spring chicken, the players in the Concacaf Champions Cup that likely will decide this tournament are all older than me. I thought about this while watching Kendall Waston, the beloved center back, turn forward for Saprissa, who helped Saprissa get past the Vancouver Whitecaps in the first leg. He's likely to suit up again at forward in the second leg on Thursday in Canada, a place he knows well after playing in Vancouver and many other MLS cities as a center back. He's 37. He turned 37 on January 1st. And he's not alone as far as a player that's approaching 40 who may make a difference in the Concacaf Champions Cup. Sergio Ramos, who just made his debut this weekend with Monterrey, has to feel like he's going to figure for Rayados as they look to win a Concacaf Champions Cup. Across town, Andre Pierre Gignac continues to be a force for Tigres. And in MLS, Lionel Messi, also not the youngest player, not exactly a developmental star, joined by Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, all in the same boat. So I thought about what this meant, that we have teams in Major League Soccer, in Liga MX, in Costa Rica's top league, all depending on these players who are 37, 38, 39, sometimes older. Does it mean that our region is a retirement region? Does it mean that old players can come here and have success even if they don't take care of themselves? I think that's the key. No, for me, the difference between those players and many of the older players elsewhere is that they have taken care of themselves. They have kept themselves at the top of their game, and they do actually miss a fair number of matches with injury. But the fact that they're able to make such an impact still can both frustrate fans, perhaps hoping to see young players come through or stay in the region when often they're sold and go abroad to play in Europe, but also can delight. It's romantic, it's fun. If Chicharito was scoring goals with Chivas, I think everyone outside of America fans would be happy to see that. Why? Because it's a player we've all grown accustomed to seeing, who's been around for a long time, who we literally did, most of us, at least of my generation, watch go from a teenager to Europe, achieving the highest heights in the game, and now hopefully, I hope, close his career with success. To me, it's okay that we have these old guys kicking around CONCACAF. It's kind of fun. Hopefully, it doesn't stunt the development of young players, which is still so key for the international teams. We'll see in 2026 how those teams that we have in our region stack up against the teams that are bringing through younger players. And hopefully we have more young stars continue to emerge. But for now, in this CONCACAF Champions Cup, I'm going to give one to the olds and enjoy these players well out of their prime, still giving their best. Well, that about does it for the Concacast with Jon Arnold for today. I've been Jon Arnold. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoy the matches this week, young or old. We'll talk to you next week on the Concacast.